And welcome back to the A.C.E Football Academy. I am Coach Dunham, again with Coach Hamilton, and we're continuing our series on playing time. It's really everyone's favorite topic to discuss when you're on sports teams. Everybody wants to be the starter. Everybody wants to be the superstar. But Coach, you and I both know that that's just not realistic. That's not life. Everybody can't be the best. And one of the things that you and I are going to go back and forth on is your role. What is your role on that team? So today we're going to be talking about playing time from a player's perspective. You and I grew up playing the game. We're going to give our perspectives as players for other people to think about when they're dealing with the playing time discussion. First, we want to thank our sponsor, the A.C.E Car Wash, locally owned and operated. Please go see them for all your car washing needs. So, Coach, let's get into the player's perspective of playing time. Let's say you're on the bench, you're a role player, and we're 4 games in, you're not getting the playing time that you like. What's your approach to dealing with this situation as a player?
I think you mentioned a word there, role. I think that is so important. And a lot of that is on the coach to clarify your role. You should have that conversation. But once you know your role, whether you agree with it, disagree with it, hate it, love it, you have to accept it. You have to embrace it. Now, of course, it's okay to want to change your role. It's okay to want to improve your role, but you have to accept that role. And by accepting that role, I personally think it allows you to work towards the goal of earning more playing time. Mm-hmm. Because as we talked about on the coaches podcast, and I will the coaches episode of this, I will allude to tonight, the things that you do and say and in practices and in games when you're not in the game, those don't go unnoticed by coaches. Mm-hmm. And so accepting your role is the key here.
Yeah. So, and you're 100% correct. And that's probably difficult for,
I'm sure,
for especially middle school and even going into high school. A lot of kids don't really understand how to accept their role within an organization,
absolutely,
a team. Maybe you've broken off into a project for a class, and you're with 4 other people, and everyone's assigned a certain topic, and you're like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's not about you. You all have to work together to get that grade,
accomplish the goal,
and you've got to do your job to accomplish that. So let's get into a little bit more detailed discussion on the playing time on the player itself. And one of the things that I want to discuss here is your inner dialogue. We all have that voice in our head. We're talking to ourselves in our heads, how to deal with the situation. Are we upset about something? Are we frustrated about something? And when it comes to playing time, obviously frustration and maybe a little bit of disappointment, some anger comes involved here. We've got to train our inner dialogue instead of getting mad. The first thing we don't want to do is set blame. It's really no one's fault that it's happening. And the easy thing to do is be mad at the coach because he's the one making the decisions. But if you don't have those conversations, maybe you're not really seeing what the coach is seeing. And we need our inner dialogue to tell us, all right, first thing you need to do is you need to calm down. Second thing you need to do is, what are you doing to prove to the coach you deserve playing time? Are you putting in the effort? Are you showing up for every single practice? Are you a good teammate? Are you serving the role that you're currently in right now? Are you coming in, ticked off, mad at everything, and kind of giving a half effort every single practice?
Yeah, I love this. And for me, that internal dialogue not only goes to all those things you were talking about. When I think of that inner dialogue, it is that self-talk. It is that, hey, I'm going to be positive today. Hey, I'm going to work hard today. Hey, I'm going to give it my all today. I'm going to control the things that are within my control. I can go in and I can control my ace. I can control my attitude. I can control my commitment. I can control my effort. I can't control what you as a coach are going to do.
Right.
I just maybe I want to, but I can't control that. And so that inner dialogue, I go back, and I'm sure you've seen it, and I'm sure our listeners have seen it. There is a viral video of Aaron Donald, who is arguably the best defensive player in the NFL. This inner monologue he does with himself before every game, and it is just positive affirmations. That's all it is. It is, hey, I can do this. Hey, I got this. Hey, we're going to win. Hey, I'm going to do this today. Hey, I'm going to be great today. And just telling yourself that often leads to the good execution.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up about Aaron Donald. I'm reading a book right now called The Winner's Manual, and it's written by a previous Ohio State football coach, Jim Tressel. And one of the things that he preaches a lot to his players is having an attitude of gratitude.
I love that.
You need to be thankful for the, number one, you get to play a certain sport, that you have athletic ability to do a sport. Just think about the amount of people, just not in your own community, but around the world, that have nothing.
Yeah.
But you get to just have fun with your friends, and we get so tied up about being a college player, a D1 level player, and that coach is keeping me from it.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to be a pro one day, and it's coach's fault that I'm not getting there. So we need to have an attitude of gratitude, kind of sit back a little bit and say, all right, what's important here? Yes, you want to play, but we've got to train our inner dialogue to fight through
the negatives
of the situation. So, Coach, what are some things that the kids can do? They've had their inner dialogue. They're trying to be positive about the situation. They're trying to understand their role of the team. What's their next step here on either earning playing time, understanding the role on the team? What are the things that we can do here for the player?
Real quickly, before we move on, before I answer that question, I want to say, going back to that inner dialogue, I think that a big part of that inner dialogue, you mentioned, hey, there's so many people, so many things in this world that we are in better positions then.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes that's hard for our middle school players to understand, or even our high school players to understand.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times when I'm talking to players or even addressing a whole team, I will go back to, hey, I cut 6 girls prior to this season.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what they would give to be in your position right now?
I love that point.
I know you're not happy. I get it. I understand. But you don't think that one of those girls would trade places with you, and you could be sitting at home doing whatever, and then she could be out here at practice.
Right.
I think addressing it on that personal level can really help that inner dialogue as well. I'm lucky to be here.
And that's a topic that child can understand.
Absolutely. But to answer your question, what can I do as a player now that hey, I'm in a good place, I have accepted my role, or I am in the process of accepting my role. I think the first thing I'm looking at is my conversation with my teammates. Am I just being a good teammate?
That's so important. And I wish more kids understood what that meant.
Yeah. Like, I talked about it in the coach's side of things. If I'm sitting on the bench and you're receiving the ball, am I communicating with you? Mm-hmm. Hey, turn. Hey, man, on. Or am I sitting on the bench and talking to my friend, or am I on my phone? Surely you don't have cell phones out during a game, but am I engaged? Am I engaged in the process? Am I being a good teammate? Hey, if you need me to stand there and be the defensive dummy in practice so you can work on your 1v1 move, am I doing that for you? Right. Am I staying late after practice to get some extra reps in, some extra touches in? All those things, I think that's where it starts.
Excellent points. And the flip side of that is, are your role players and your starters, are they good teammates?
Absolutely, 100%.
Are they cheering on the players not getting enough playing time, saying, hey, you did awesome today in practice. Hey, thanks for pushing me a little bit harder. I needed that today. Is the dialogue between teammates back and forth regardless of their role on that team.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, having conversations with your teammates, that really should happen before you talk to the coach or your parents.
Well, and even I love that you bring up the, hey, if I'm the starter, if I'm the star player, am I also being a good teammate? Because if I am the star player and Chris isn't playing very much, am I having those conversations with you, as you mentioned? Hey, I see you working at practice. Keep giving it all you got.
Yeah.
This gets off of our playing time conversation, and this is a more of a leadership topic, but am I as the star player going to coach and saying, Coach, you got to get Chris some more minutes. He's working his butt off. He's doing everything we ask. We got to get him some more minutes, even if it sacrifices my minutes.
I'm going to disagree. I think this is part of the playing time because it defines your character when you deal with these tough conversations of playing time, whether you're not getting it or not getting what you expect it to be. Because leadership isn't just something you're born with.
Right.
You've got to go through some adversity.
Yeah.
To build those skill sets to be a leader. And if you're just ticked off all the time and you're mad at the coach and you're mad at a couple of teammates because they don't always have your back, those leadership skills are not getting built.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the next step here, so now I've checked off, hey, my inner dialogue, I am where I need to be, or I feel like I'm where I need to be. I am being a pretty solid teammate. I'm being a good teammate. Yep. Now it's time to go talk to coach.
And have a plan. Don't just walk to the coach and say, Coach, why am I not playing?
Right.
First of all, you're going to catch your coach a little off guard. Not that you shouldn't. It's okay to start a conversation that way, but senior coach a text. Hey, coach, can we talk before or after practice tomorrow? I talked about my playing time. And now your coach can come in prepared to give you the information you need. Yeah. Maybe he's going to look back on some of the games and some of the practices and say, all right, here are your pros and here are your weaknesses.
Yeah.
And here are the things that I want you to focus on for the next month or so through the season. So, and if that's talking to your teammates, hey, have you talked to coach about certain things? How can I approach him differently?
I think I love that you bring up how to approach that conversation, because I think the way as a player, and this is what, I forget where I read this, it might have been a J.P. Nervin book or something, but the way your first question, I think, to your coach is so important. Mm-hmm. If you come up and say, why aren't I playing? Okay, well, now that already sounds a little defensive, and now, there's already some tension there. But if you come to a coach and you say, hey, what can I do to earn more playing time? Now all of a sudden, as a coach, I'm thinking, okay, they're not really, they want to play more, but they're not angry. They're not upset.
Oh, yeah.
They want to know, what can I do to improve?
Yeah. They want to put in the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think even if I had advice for a player going to a coach, that would be my number one thing. Address it, and make sure it's addressed as, I want to improve to help the team, and that's okay. And that means you want more playing time. I get it. That's fine. But address it in the fact of, hey, how can I improve to earn more playing time?
Yeah, it's all about the approach. And I'm going to back that up with you. You mentioned don't approach the coach being anger. So many players let it drag on through the season till it gets to what I like to say a boiling point, where they're so mad and they're so angry where they're ready to quit.
Yeah.
When if they would have approached that coach 8 weeks ago, gotten the coach's perspective, maybe the coach is seeing something that you're just not realizing.
Right.
And it could be a simple fix. It could be something that maybe there's a topic or something that you're working on in practice that you're just not grasping. You may think you're grasping it, but the coach is not seeing it being developed when you're scrimmaging or in games, wherever it may be. So when you have those issues and you have concerns, don't delay it.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, don't wait for that boiling point where instead of having that conversation, you're having an argument.
Right.
Because you're so frustrated.
Well, and to that same extent, and we're going to get into this a lot more when we talk about the parent side of things.
Yeah.
But as a player, and again, we're talking about that middle school, high school level, please don't let mama or daddy be the first one who approaches the coach.
Yeah.
You, and I get it, like, coaching girls, they are a little emotional, and I have had these conversations with players before, and before they even start talking to me, they start crying because it's a tough conversation.
Absolutely.
Especially if the coach is going to be honest with you, and the coach is going to tell you things that maybe you know but haven't actually heard yet.
Right.
And I think what players need to take away is, it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to get upset with the coach, or not with the coach, but get upset while talking to the coach about this subject. Because for me, it shows your passion. It shows your desire to help the team. But you have to be the one to address it.
Yeah, and I think you made the perfect example here. Tell mom and dad, let me handle this first.
Yeah.
Let me do my part. Because we've talked about this so far in this conversation where we're developing leadership skills.
Yeah.
You have to take it upon yourself to develop a skill set of solving problems, dealing with conflict,
right,
communicating with difficult people. Maybe you see your coach as intimidating because he's an authoritative figure. None of that stuff changes when you become an adult. And if you haven't developed those skills, you're going to deal with obnoxious people, and you're going to deal with loud people. You're going to deal with aggressive people. And you've got to have an understanding how to have those conversations. And it doesn't help when mom and dad are doing that for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So step in there and say, Mom, Dad, let me do my thing first. If it doesn't go the way we like, then we can go and discuss a different way to approach this.
Right. I think the final thing that we'll address here, Coach, is don't assign fault. It's not the coach's fault. Mm-hmm. It's not your fault. It's not your teammate's fault. It's not your mom's fault. It's not whoever's fault. It goes back to that, accepting our role and understanding what's happening for the team.
Yeah, and we discussed this in the first session about the coach's perspective. And again, something that we don't like to talk about a lot, but it's the reality of it. Some people just don't have that level of talent. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow, accepting that you're not at that talent level or maybe in the mid-range of the team. But if you're on that team, you still have a role to play. You have value to your teammates.
Absolutely.
They need you there to get better for the next game. Yeah. And so as you're dealing with earning that playing time, you still got to be a good teammate. And so if we're placing blame on the coach, you're losing the good teammate perspective. You're losing your role of the team, and you're taking away your development while the team is trying to put things together. So it's a difficult topic, and no one wants to admit it, but we have to be realistic about where we are on that team. Where do I realistically sit on this team? Am I top, middle, bottom? And if I'm not in that position, number one, I'm going to accept it. And then I'm going to figure out how to get better.
Yeah. Well, and I think, one of the hardest conversations that I've had with players, and I think one of the hardest pills to swallow as a player, is what you just talked about. Understanding that, hey, I'm going to coach and saying, hey, how can I get more playing time? Mm-hmm. But on the flip side of that, what we have to understand is more playing time for me means less playing time for someone else.
Right.
And with that comes that issue of talent. You asked that question in our coaches episode about what do you look for when you're building your starting 11? And the bottom line is some of it is talent.
Absolutely.
If not a lot of it. And so accepting the fact that, hey, yes, I've gone to coach and I've asked coach, what can I do to get more playing time? And coach has given me A, B, and C to get better. And I'm doing A, B, and C to get better. But that doesn't mean that the player ahead of me also hasn't come to coach and said, hey, what can I do?
Yeah.
And the coach has given them A, B, and C, and they're doing A, B, and C to get better. And unfortunately, they're just better.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And that is, I understand as a player, that is not what you want to hear sometime. But as an adult, as a person, as a human being, that's just a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you brought that up, because we always want to compare ourselves to other players, but sometimes our evaluation isn't always correct. But the other side of that is one coach may have you starting, one coach may have you as a role player, one coach may not even want you on the team. So you got a coach's perspective of what that talent level is, because his game plan may require a different skill set that you provide.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so there's all kinds of ways to get. It's like we said, don't place blame. If you don't think that coach has your best interest in mind, there's other options out there. And even though you may love your teammates, you've got to make that decision of staying here and being a good teammate, or finding another team and trying something new. But when we're placing blame, we're taking away that ace.
Absolutely. And Coach, before we sign off tonight, I will say that before we even recorded this podcast, before you and I were kind of throwing ideas at each other to talk about, I texted one of my players and asked them that very question. How do you as a player earn more playing time? And so shout out to K-Dog here. But these were her bullet points. And I think you will see that all of them, most of them, we've talked about. So number one is practice more, right? I mean, that's simple. Put in the work.
And I think what they're referencing is practicing at home. We're not talking about just practice with the team.
Absolutely.
On your own.
Focus on what I can control with my soccer skills.
I love that.
Focus on what I can control. Focus on my attitude. There you go. I mean, we mentioned it. Here's my big one. Make sure I'm paying attention in practice. And I would even add to that in the games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her next point was be a leader. You can be a leader and not play.
Yeah,
you can be a leader from the sideline.
Yeah.
And then her last one, and we kind of just joked about it, but her last one is the truth. Just be better than the others.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
I mean that's the answer, right?
And that's the thing that I think a lot of people understand is there's someone better than you in your position. And you've already said it. You may be doing A, B, and C. They're probably also doing A, B, and C.
Yeah.
If you're not outplaying that person in front of you, I mean, that's what the coach is going to be looking at. Are you outplaying them in practice?
Absolutely.
And if you're not, that's the role you're going to be.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach, this has been an interesting topic here, and we could probably have more conversations. I think getting players' perspectives on this.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If you are a player and you're listening and you would like to come on with us and discuss this playing time topic, maybe you've been on the side of, hey, I want more playing time. Maybe you're even on the other side of things where, hey, I'm playing a ton, but my teammates are frustrated.
Yeah. We'd
love to have you on.
Absolutely. And if you see us on Facebook or on X, feel free to leave us a comment on there. Give us your perspective of playing time from a player's perspective. We'd love to hear from you. We are the ACE Football Academy. I am Coach Dunham. This is Coach Hamilton. We want to thank our sponsor, the A&C Car Wash, locally owned and operated. ACE Football Academy, go kick some ace.